Hello! Today I will be going over an SCP item that I myself have made. This is going to be a long one, so sit down, grab a snack, and get ready to learn about the Chronos Archives. Item number SCP-7920, the Chronos Archives. Object Class, Cheddar. Special Containment Procedures. Due to the interdimensional properties of the Chronos Archives, it is not possible to effectively contain it. Rather, the Foundation works to restrict access to it as much as possible to minimize the risk of anomalies from the archives spreading into our world. All current access points to the Chronos Archives are to be under constant surveillance, and the archives are only to be entered with the proper equipment and permission. Unauthorized access to the Chronos Archives is punishable with immediate termination or death. If a person not at all related to the Foundation or any other organizations of interest such as the GOC or Chaos Insurgency are to attempt to enter, they are to be stopped at all costs and immediately given a class amnestic. If they are to somehow successfully enter the archives, they are to be given the same treatment if and when they return. In the latter situation, the individual is to be very closely and secretly monitored for up to 3 weeks following exit from the archives. If the individual appears to still recall parts of their time in the Chronos Archives, they are to be detained and given a Class C amnestic before being released. In the event that a subject somehow manages to still recall their time in the archives, execution of the individual is authorized. There are currently 5 known entrances to the Chronos Archives. Please note that it is possible for SCP-7920 the instances to exit the archives into our reality. In the event that this happens, the SCP-7920 instance is to be dispatched as quickly as possible. Consequences for failure to comply with orders can and will lead to immediate termination. The possibility of death is incredibly high, and if an instance of SCP-7920 is to convert someone into another SCP-7920 instance, while not inside of the archives, the following area is to be completely closed off until further notice. Description: SCP-7920, better known by Foundation staff as the Chronos Archives, is an endless labyrinth-like structure that takes on the appearance of an ancient sprawling library with endless shelves. The library itself is not actually in our actual plane of existence, but rather a space that appears to be out of connection with space and time itself, with the only way to enter it being through one of the 5 gateways that the Foundation has discovered. These gateways are characterized either by their appearance near natural structures that appear to look somewhat like large door frames or entrances to enclosed spaces, or glitchy, liminal, or surreal-looking and feeling areas. Examples include the entrance to a cave, a hole in a large tree big enough for a human to fit into, foggy spots on mountains inside of clouds that do not appear to be moving, or areas that appear to be oddly liminal. Each of these examples describes one of the 5 current known entrances. The inside of the library is composed entirely out of endless rows of long and tall bookshelves, with random filing cabinets strewn throughout the hallways. Upon closer inspection, the books on the shelves, as well as documents found in the filing cabinets, appear to be documentation of events that happen in different realities, some of which being from our own. Some of the documents are from alternate timelines of our world, such as a timeline where the dinosaurs never went extinct, while some are predictions and descriptions of our society in the future. While it is very rare, some documents that are tied directly to our current timeline have been found. These books and documents are constantly changing to fit their respective timeline, with information being added and edited as certain events unfold. If a person is to manually attempt to change something in one of the books or documents, or cause harm or destruction to one of them, the respective item will be quickly returned to its place in the archives, and the shadowy figure resembling that of a librarian will appear to the individual who has attempted to vandalize any of the documents. These apparitions are known as SCP-7920-A. The only purpose they serve is to return the documents to their original place and attempt to guide the person they are interacting with to the exit. The figure will point you in the direction of the nearest exit without explanation, then will promptly disappear. If the figure is to be spawned again, they will once more attempt to guide the person to the exit, this time lingering longer to make sure the person follows their directions. However, if one of the apparitions is to appear 3 times, they will seize the person who has continuously attempted to vandalize documents and turn them into an instance of SCP-7920-B, which will now be described. SCP-7920-B is something that appears to be a shadowy figure of a human with exaggerated features, such as longer or shorter arms, legs, fingers or necks. These creatures are surrounded by a pixelated glitchy aura that distorts their image and any sound was within a 10-foot radius around the creature. They will slowly meander around the archives, and if they spot someone who is not either another instance of SCP-7920-B, they will quickly sprint towards them in an attempt to make them flee and get lost in the archive so that they may eventually catch them and turn them into another instance of SCP-7920-B. Addendum: inside of the Chronos Archives, time also functions differently. The longer you remain in the archives, the more distorted time may become. Minutes can pass by as hours, and vice versa. Clocks, both regular and digital, do not function here either, even if powered. Oddly enough, older camcorders are able to record and successfully and accurately display the correct amount of time someone has spent in the archives, with other newer technology ceasing to turn on inside of these places. If a person is to attempt to count and remember the amount of time they are inserted into the archives for, they will be forced to forget by an unknown force that resides in the library. If a person remains inside of the archives long enough, they can develop severe mental anomalies. One of the most severe cases was reported by a D-Class who was sent in to test the effects of prolonged exposure. After he was released, he began ranting about how he was a man by the name of David McCormick, a successful heart surgeon. He then went on to list several aspects of his presumed life such as his income, family, location of residency, and both his and his children's ages. After finishing his rant about his supposed life, the D-Class passed out and was asleep for the next 2 weeks. It was later determined that all of the information the D-Class had given about the supposed David McCormick was completely true. Interviewed, Jim Williams. Interviewer, Dr. Redacted. Forward, in the following interview, Jim Williams was interviewed by Dr. Redacted in an attempt to extract information from her after she entered the archives and made it out alive and unscathed. This interview takes place before the administration of amnestics.
So Jim, do you know why you are here today?
Because of that place I was in, I think. At least I hope.
Correct. To clarify, we are here to talk about your time inside of the archives after you entered from the entrance at the higher end of the forest on Mount Redacted. Now what we want to know is exactly what you experienced while you were inside of the archives.
Well, it was dark and eerie. I felt like I was being watched constantly. There were a few books and papers on the floor that I read. None of them made any sense.
Would you like to elaborate on that? What exactly did the books and papers you read say?
There was only one book I read, but 3 papers I picked up. The book seemed to be a documentary of life on some kind of other alien planet. I quickly placed it back where I found it and moved on to the papers I saw. They were events. Things in our world that actually happened, like a lot of World War I and descriptions of products we have such as phones. However, the descriptions were just wrong. Like none of the features of most phones were on these, like cameras or particular functions like Face ID or fingerprint sensors. I don't know how else to explain it. I don't remember too much.
Interesting. Did you see anything other than the documents? Possibly something alive?
There was. I saw a few shadowy glitchy figures around some corners. They didn't seem to notice me, I think, but I tried to avoid them. I was afraid that I might have been attacked or possibly had something worse happen to me.
That was a good call. Do you have any possible ideas of what those creatures were? Then again, it would be incredibly suspicious if she did have any prior knowledge.
No. This whole experience was foreign to me. Why was it a good call to avoid them?
Let's just say you would not be here currently if you had been caught. Well then, I don't think there is much else for you to tell us in that case.
That's a relief. Now what?
Well, for safety and containment purposes, we are going to administer a Class C amnestic to erase your memory of entering the archives. What is going to happen is you will be surgically administered the amnestic to erase this memory of the archives, as well as the memory of this interview. Afterwards, you will be taken back to your residence while asleep, where you will resume your regular life once waking up. We will not charge you for any of the materials used for the procedures.
I'm just glad I can put this whole ordeal behind me.